As we dive back into episode 7, part 2, with change management expert Evie Staples, we start the second episode with Evie describing the bank of trust.
And let me tell you, so I want to go into that. I love where you're taking me here because it's such good stuff. So, yes, there is a bank of trust your organization has with you as a leader. And every time you take them through transition, you were taking $20 out of that bank of trust. Let's assume of 100, right? And so you've got to build it back up. You've got to decide how you spend it. What you're talking about is change impact and change collision. It is the techie term for if I am taking you through too much at once, I'm spending too much in the bank of trust. I will overdraft. I will overdraft. People only have but so much bandwidth. And so a lot of times when you're thinking about change and running change in an organization, if it's at the same time that you're doing another major change, or if it's at the same time that there's a quarterly high volume or an end of quarter, end of month expectation or a metric that requires the exact same end users to deliver at a high level to control for that volume, you've got to move that change around that, or you've got to move that metric. You only have but so much in the bank. So you have to make decisions on what's worth spending and when. The other thing that I'll talk about when it comes to that bank of trust is the first thing that you talked about with the communication and the importance there. It is really important that oh my gosh, I'm so grateful that you asked me this because I'm so excited to say this. I'm sorry, I had to process my feelings. It is really, really crucial that you control the communication that you are doing with that pilot. Because what will happen is if you are not clear that this is an ecosystem of chaos and I'm asking you to sign up for an ecosystem of chaos, we don't know what we're doing. You don't know what's going to happen. None of us know. We trust you and you trust us. Our goal is to listen to you. Our goal is to pick you up if anything fails or falls by the wayside. Our goal is to have a budget to have your back. If as a result, your team has to come in and work extra hours, that's not going to come out of your pocket for being in a pilot. I'm not going to make you suffer to experience this with me. If you build trust with you and them, then what happens is they see the experience as a test where we're all making it up as we go along. Because one thing that we know is end users talk. If you're an organization, they're talking to each other. Multiple hospitals, they're talking to each other. I was in supply chain as well. So like multiple end users of supply chain, truckers, movers, all those they all talk to each other. And what will happen is if you don't set the expectation that we know that some of this might be uncomfortable and we know that this might be bad, this is a one-off. We want you to help us surface those things that are uncomfortable so we can eliminate it for the organization. What they will go and say is that I had a bad experience and they don't know what they're doing. Well, of course we don't know what we're doing. We're testing this together. So you have to be incredibly clear with your communication so that it doesn't get out that you're going to take all of this testing and unknowns and figuring it out as you go along into how you roll to the rest of the organization. And then you end up having to roll in stages to all these other areas and having to undo the negative assumptions that they had based on what they heard from the pilots. So communication at every level is important, but for everything is important as well. Because now what they've done is they've freaked everyone else out, and that bank of trust is coming in -10
Yeah.
before you even walk in. And now you're over investing on pizza parties and all these other things and prizes to not scare off the precious deer and to go, please come here. No, I'm not going to hurt you. I learned my lessons from the first one. You got to set the pilot up with great intentionality. You got to pick people who you know are going to be upset. Pick people who you know are going to be vocal, which is scary. You want to run away from the vocal people, but you pick them first.
Yeah.
Because if you convert your strongest dissenter, the vocal person is going to go do the exact same thing to the organization, but in the opposite direction. So now you're going in with plus $5 to all the rest of these hospitals because you converted the strongest dissenter and the most difficult person to convince in your organization. So I love that you got me talking about this because there's so many little tips and tricks that you can do to set yourself up for success and avoid chaos, because pilots can go wrong if you don't set them up correctly. So communication for events and across the organization are incredibly important.
And avoid those overdraft fees.
Avoid
And I'm
to the
just
rare
gonna
feast.
say, I know a lot of people talk shit about pizza parties. I love a good pizza
I
party.
do too, I do too, but you
They
don't want a penalty pizza party.
no,
You
yeah,
want like a everybody's happy and now we're celebrating and
uh,
commemorating with our
not a
pizza party.
pity pizza party.
Not a please forgive me.
Yes, yes, that's fair. Maybe that's the Chicago in me that's talking.
If it's deep dish.
Let me ask you this. When we consider organizational culture and how that can determine whether change initiatives stick, what are some of the key cultural elements you focus on to ensure lasting impact? And so I'm thinking it more of a perspective of maybe a leader is listening to this and they're thinking, like, okay, what they're saying makes sense. Where do I start? First and foremost, put your house in order, i.e., culture. What do we need to focus on there?
The first thing to know if you're a leader listening to this is that you being perfect is not a requirement. You being visible is. So I know many leaders are not comfortable failing in front of others. They
Mhm,
really don't want to. They want to be the strong ones. But for people to connect with you, they need to hear in what you communicate. They need to see. They need to know, I am going to feel uncertain. I know you feel uncertain. We feel uncertain.
mm,
You're not gonna get anywhere pretending like their feelings or yours are not real. Because even though in your mind, you're just being strong for them, in their minds, they're being gaslit and they're not gonna trust anything else you say. Even if everything that you say is valid. If you don't act like you're scared about this, if you don't act like change is hard,
mhm,
I don't wanna hear anything else you have to say. There's no way in the world change is not hard.
right.
Right? So, yes, this will be hard for us. I wouldn't knowingly and willingly just throw us into discomfort. I think on the other side of this is what I see. I
Mhm,
see a world where this, I see a world where this, I see a world where this, and these things for you could mean this. Now, if it stops meaning this, my value is this goes back to how do I get started and how do I anchor to your values? You're always going to anchor to the values of your organization. How you roll out the change should be informed by the values that you share.
mhm,
So if the value of your organization is open honesty, just as an example, if it stops being that for you, I value your honesty. Here are anonymous ways to submit your feedback. So you won't feel like you're getting punished for sharing your discomfort. Or if this stops feeling like this for you, I value collaborative effort. Here is an open source idea of how we can make this change or what thing we can add to this system. And we will prioritize that on our product development list and get back to you on when that rolls out. And then we'll get you to champion it as your idea in the organization.
mhm,
Here's how we're going to celebrate you and big you up for the good things you want to share. I value collaboration. So if you're working with somebody else and you're willing to fly out to help this other hospital not go through what you went through, and you're willing to do that, we're going to pay time and a half for you. I'm going to roll this out according to what matters to me. But I've got to be visible, know it, react to it quickly, and just be okay to be your authentic self in that space because even if they can't trust the change, they can trust you. And that's ultimately at the organizational level and at the individual level. We started this with I went through a lot of changes in my life, but I know what my parents instilled in me. I know who I am. I
mhm,
know I'm a being of light. I know I'm a person that has hope. And when I don't know anything else about myself, I know I will come to the place where I can hope again.
mhm,
That's I hold on to the thing that is anchored within me when everything changes around me. You as a leader, you are the anchor. A lot of times people come to an organization, they love the organization you built, the way that you make things feel, the way that they're able to help in the ecosystem you have created. You are the anchor. So when they cannot anchor to the changes around them, they can anchor to you. You are the anchor that they need. Visibility is a requirement. If you didn't listen to anything else, be visible. You are more important than you ever can imagine, especially in a state of change. Your voice, while the organization is giving birth, your consistent, calm, present voice is the thing that will get them to the other side of delivering this vision. And we have to make sure that whereas usually you might go inside of yourself and be introspective, you've got to reach your hands out. You've got to keep your hands open for your organization to have an anchor to hold on to
mhm.
in that storm to navigate to the other side.
I love your metaphor because to be honest, the midwife doesn't go running out of the room when it's showtime
She doesn't phone in. All right, you got it.
and send pizza.
Pizza.
Right.
She's right there with you.
That's right.
She's sitting there while you're hollering and
Yeah.
screaming and going, I can't do this. I want to go back. I want to turn around. No, thanks.
Right.
Change your minds. No, no, no. And she's consistently there.
Mhm.
You've got this.
Mhm.
You can do this. I'm scared too. I might have delivered several things. I've never delivered this moment.
Right. Yeah.
This moment's new for me too.
Yeah.
As much of an expert as I am, every single change that I do is a new change for me. And I have no guarantee. What I do is set up the probability that it will go well, but I have no guarantee until it does.
Right.
So we're all new in this. None of us know what we're doing in real life.
Well, some more than others.
Some more than others, but no one 100%.
Yeah.
So, like, be visible. Your space, your uncertainty is all welcome. It will build the trust.
Yeah.
Just don't leave the room. Whatever you do, don't leave the room.
If you could verbalize what would be maybe one key blind spot that a leader might have when it comes to change initiatives, what's something that they're not thinking of? I mean, you've given us lots of good information, so maybe you've already mentioned it, but if you had to pick one of like, be on the lookout for this, what would that be?
Budget.
Okay.
Budget. A lot of times, someone in my field, someone like yourself, because even if you don't have actual change managers in your organizations, you have people who are talented at change in your organization. They will do just fine. A lot of times, we are brought in to do the cleanup. If the moment you decide months before anybody else knows, and you're having the conversation with your team, you're having the conversation with the board, you're feeling this out, you're right at the edge of it, and you are about to sign, I want you to think about where in the contract with this vendor, with this software company, with whoever else is going to come in and deliver this change,
Mhm.
where in the contract is training for your people? Where in the contract is, do they have communications and benefits? Do they have QRGs that we can use to make it easier for my organization to lay this out and deliver it? Think about that in the budget of what you're buying. And if they don't have that in the software that you're investing in, the change you're investing in, the new TMS or whatever it is, or for if you're in transportation, you know what a TMS is. I oscillate between fields here. But if you are just buying the out the box product,
Mhm.
then this is not properly budgeted. And what's going to happen is you're going to spend way more on the back end tailoring it because you forgot certain hospitals or certain sections of your organization have this special need, or tailoring it because of this, or extending your time with them, because what a lot of vendors will do is they'll sell you the software. They know you're coming back for the training. The training is an added cost. So, oh, you need us? Well, it's going to be another $20,000 a month for a retainer for us.
Mhm.
And so they don't make one-time sales. It is in the interest of the vendor to make retainer agreements with you.
Yeah.
If you are not thinking about change elements in your budget at the very beginning, you're going to end up paying so much more on the back end. So think about that. It's not just the cost of the technology and what it means for the innovation. It's the cost to implement that technology. The biggest issue that leaders do is that they spend on the thing and think the thing's going to make them money. You can spend on the thing, but there's a whole process between the thing and the thing making you money. And that process, spend on that process too. If it's not with the vendor, it's with the change manager. If it's not with the change manager, invest in your leaders having change management certifications.
Mhm.
Invest in the ones that you know are already great at leading teams, building trust. You can identify those people. They kind of have like a charisma about them. Even if they're quiet, people just trust them and gravitate to them. Turn those people into change management certified individuals in your organization. Do it right when you buy the software so that they have time to help as you have time to massage the organization. Because the other thing is all about laying the timeline on one another. So do all this at the start so it all can be percolating at the same time instead of finishing one, then starting the other, then starting the other, and then having to wait. And so now you feel like change is taking a long time. It doesn't take a long time if you started at the beginning. So budget and start as soon as possible. As soon as you are locked in on that decision, start getting your people together and figuring out what that change in that rollout plan is going to be.
Yeah, that's great. Great advice. What has been the most rewarding transformation that you've witnessed, either within a person or a company, and why did that stand out for you?
Oh man, I don't want to say every single one.
It's like a parent saying they love all their kids. I
your
know there's
favorite
one
kid,
that
right? Like, because all of them are really meaningful. I will
right.
say, my very first client with Empower the Future, was actually in the veterinary industry. And they were rolling out to a couple hundred of their hospitals. They were rolling out a new software, and they started in the pilot. Every single one of those leaders were thoughtful, and a lot of the leaders I work with, because owning my own business, I'm allowed to make values-based decisions. If we don't gel,
Yeah,
I can just be like, "It's not a good fit." Like,
yeah,
when you're employed, you have to deal with it. I
right.
don't. I'm fortunate that every leader I work with is values aligned, but these leaders were brave enough. Had a new chief technology officer come in, and this chief technology person was brave enough to say, "We've gone through this change. We've seen the pain in the hospitals. These hospitals in the pilot are giving us feedback. And based on this feedback, this isn't the right change for us like we thought. I need you to understand that by the time that you get to a pilot, most organizations have invested millions of dollars. This is not an easy decision. I've only seen it one other time in my entire career where an executive leader was willing to say, no. A lot of times our pride causes us to double down. It doesn't suck. We're not trying hard enough. No,
Right.
sometimes it sucks. The vendor sold you something and
Yeah.
you're digging in and you're finding out that what they sold you isn't what it was. And at what and very rarely, but at what point do you say, I'm not going to put my people through that?
Yeah.
And having the opportunity to share about all the things that I shared today, and sharing this is the impact of change, and this is the impact on your organization, and this is what it means to the health of your organization to do this or to do that, without making any recommendations. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to take the change I'm given and make it as positive as it can be.
Yeah.
I'm not here to say don't change, right? Although sometimes that is the right decision. And I think the most impactful thing for me, if I had to say like in the last year, would be a client that was brave enough to go, actually, no, we're going to start over again. We're going to look at a software that fits better. And we'll call you back, Evie. We'll call you and your team back once we've settled on what we're going to do, but we're not going to
Mhm.
do this. This is not right. And I think that was really impactful for me because it was a reminder to me as a business owner as well to say, at any point, if it doesn't feel right, I can fundamentally say, this isn't right for me. I need to separate and realign to what is. I need to stay true to my North Star. I admired it so much. It was so brave. And the respect that that leader bought. And again, you don't do it to buy, but in that bank of trust, the respect in that bank of trust for that leader through the roof.
Right.
Not just from their organization, but from me as well.
Mm.
So yeah, I would have to say if I had to list like the most recent, most impactful thing, I've had a lot of personal impact as well, but the most recent impactful thing for me would be that because you don't see that.
Yes, that's amazing.
Yeah.
For listeners today or newer leaders or seasoned leaders, what's one takeaway about embracing change that you want them to hear from you?
Embracing change is very, very closely akin to embracing yourself because you can't survive something that upends everything around you if you're not very anchored in who you are. And so you will be surprised at the amount of correlations between navigating personal change and navigating organizational change that there
Mhm.
are. You have to get your own self on the other side of this change. If you're someone who's feeling that when people react and yell and bark about something that they don't like at you, that you're taking that in personally, you've got to get on the other side of that before you take an organization through a change. You have got to make sure, I call it, I'm someone who speaks in metaphors a lot, so you'll have to translate this for me, Bridget. But you can't let water get in your boat. And when the water is still, it's very easy for it not to get in your boat. Once you start shaking those waters, it's very easy for water to get in your boat. You've got to have a system before you start a change for getting water out of your boat. It's important that you go back home and you're your best for your family and for yourself as
Mhm.
well, not just your teams. It's important that you're okay at the end of this too, not just your people. And a lot of people, if they know you, they're excellent leaders because you're an excellent leader, Bridget. But they're probably also sacrificial leaders. And so you have got to build an ecosystem of understanding for yourself. You've got to prepare yourself, prepare yourself,
Or
pre-prepare.
pray.
You gotta, you gotta kind of get yourself filled up, fill your own cup up,
Yeah.
put your own mask on, make sure that you're okay, you're in a good space before you start rolling this out.
Yeah.
And then actively invest in yourself as you're rolling it out. Someone to talk to, something to figure out, time spent outside. I don't care what it is. You have to be at your best. You have to bring your best to the table, and you have to bring your authentic self to the table. And in order to do that, you have to take really good care of yourself. Please, if there's one thing to remember is take care of yourself as you're taking care of the organization and navigating the organization through change. A lot of what I do is sitting with leaders and just listening and letting them yell and say, I didn't like this and I didn't like that, and say all the things that they weren't able to say
Yeah.
um, to the organization, saying it behind closed doors and going, okay, now how do we repair you?
Right. Some of what you've said in just prior episodes and experiences too, I always go back to really understanding the environment you're in, meaning, is it a good relationship for you as an employee, right? Is there psychological safety? Is there trust? Is there a platform for you to raise concerns without retaliation and what have you? And personally, I think if your answer is no to all of those, maybe it's time to be a self advocate and recognize that's not a healthy place for you to work. But beyond that, as leaders, as operators who are typically implementers of change, and maybe it's an unpopular opinion, but I'm of the thought that you have to be willing to be an advocate. As an operator in particular, I've always viewed that position as the glue of the organization and their desires and the teams you're supporting, and being kind of the go between for both and finding that balance where everyone is as happy as possible. And I fear that a lot of times that person receives a directive and either has fear or hesitation of pushing back when they see the obvious. And I would hope or employ organizations to focus on creating that psychological safety and allowing that dynamic tension to not bottleneck or stop an initiative, but to actually listen with curiosity that could allow it to be more successful and better received by the teams of whom you're hoping to implement the change with. And I can't help but think there are a lot of people that are probably listening saying, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about, and I would never be willing to say something. But then I would argue, and then we wonder why changes constantly fail and why people are constantly frustrated. Somebody has to be empowered to have that voice.
Yeah. I think it's also a matter of a lot of people knowing that they need to say something and not knowing how. And this is so common with leaders. This is so common with advocates. This is so common with middle managers. The reality is each level of the organization is under a certain pressure to
Mhm.
deliver a change for a certain reason. When you are advocating up, it's just as important when leaders are advocating downward with communication to understand with them. You have to understand with them the opposite direction too. And so if the person that you're hearing has been crying with you, because advocates are safe spaces, they naturally are. And this amplifies when the organization isn't. That one person who's safe becomes like the person for everything. If you are listening to them cry, you're listening to them feel hopeless, you're listening to them feel helpless, you've got to encourage them. Then you have got to do the difficult work of sifting through all the gold that they gave you and finding the heaviest actionable nuggets and taking those forward. If you take the same volatility forward that you felt in that moment, if you take, and this is for those of us who are empaths, we feel it all. If you take everything that you felt and you illustrate it with the same fervor, it might not be received in any way that a leader can do anything about it. I was not there. I don't understand the context of the upset. I don't understand any of this. And then what do you want me to do about it except slow down and stop? We can't slow down and stop. I want to hear the whole story. As an advocate, I want to hear the whole story about why being forced to work overtime during this change has ruined things for you,
Mhm.
has ruined the experience at work, how you're so tired and it is so hard for you. The thing I need to take is not the person who's talking to me's inflamed arthritis forward,
Okay.
right? I need to listen to it and empathize with it. But then I need to go forward and go, I think we need to hire more people. I think we need to alternate back and forth between who's doing overtime because the team's being burnt out.
Yeah.
I need to give you something you can actually do something with.
Yeah.
And a lot of times the reason, and we gotta be fair, we
Mhm,
gotta be fair. A lot of times advocates speak up and they feel like I'm just gonna be shut down. But
mhm,
it's also the way,
mhm,
in fairness. If you're bringing me a whole lot of experience, I can't do something about this. I trust you. If I'm an executive leader, I trust you that what you're bringing me is useful. I don't need 40 minutes on it. Tell me what I can do to fix it.
mhm,
Because as much as I care about this one, I have 700 others I have to care about too. And the way that I navigate that is tell me the fixable thing, let me fix it, and then I need to make a decision for the next fixable thing because I only have 24 hours in a day. And so advocates have to filter what they're hearing into what will heal the best, the most, what will be the most impactful thing. And a lot of times, if you can't fix something, you pick the heaviest thing, you advocate for that, you get that over the hill, they feel heard. And that gives them a little bit more gusto to continue on. Advocates don't have to fix everything wrong with everybody. I
mhm.
can't come back to you in this example and go, man, here's a medicine no one's ever heard of before for your arthritis. In addition to times, I don't know if I can fix the arthritis piece, right? However, the overtime piece I can fix. I can fix
Mhm,
with advocacy and I can fix with strategy. Now, because we all are the chief person responsible for our own well being, we all are the first person. The organization is not one. What you believe is not one.
mhm,
Your partner is not number one. You're number one for your own well being and your happiness.
mhm,
So what I want to do is give you back the time and trust that you take that time
mhm,
and you invested in your recovery. You invested in what you need to get yourself to 100,
mhm,
but I'm going to build the ecosystem. A lot of times, the other thing that advocates do is they feel they have to save. I can't save anyone else more than they want to save themselves. I've got to build a safe place, build a space for you wherein you can step into your own realization, your own wholeness, and then celebrate you when you do. But I can't be whole for you. And so advocates a lot of times they're weighing the cost. What's it going to cost me to speak up? What's it going to cost me to take on this from another person? Like it's a lot. And what I want to say to the advocate leaders is you don't have to take all that on. Find the one most impactful thing and the thing that's most translatable across other similar people with that experience.
mhm,
Fix that one thing. You can go to sleep at night. Wake up and find the next one. It's okay if you heal one thing at a time. You
mhm.
don't have to boil the ocean.
Yeah. Evie, I could keep you here for hours, but I won't. I just want to thank you so much for your time today, the information you shared. Of course, I will include your contact information. I'm thinking if you don't have a hotline, we need one of those because I can't help but think there's an awful lot of people that want you on speed dial.
Oh, me,
These,
please.
these things come up. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure connecting with you today.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Bridget, for having me on.
Yes, of course.